Good evening. Let's see, just the one box and then one other thing that arrived. I think we'll find one interesting little factoid about this container. Oh, what's that? Okay. We don't need the receipt, we just need these. So we've got a Majikoi Samurai Girls, the Blu-ray version, because apparently the DVD version isn't shipping yet. The fuck? I mean, I already knew this one looked pretty strange because she's got her hand in that other girl's pants. I guess one question I kind of wonder. It looks like it's got an English dub. It's actually useful to know. So I don't know how this rates. I think I've looked at it once. And I don't know when the DVD version is going to arrive, because Amazon told me that it would take it a bit longer, maybe a couple months to ship. And I'm going to let it take care of that. Aria, the Scarlet Ammo. Looks like we've got another tsundere, although that makes it look a bit more fan servicey than a whole lot of them, I guess. Not that there aren't fan service and tsundere words all the time, but I don't think of Shakugan no Shana or Toradora like that, so we'll have to see. And the one person I know that has watched it didn't care so much about it, so it'll be interesting to see what it does for me, I guess. So we've got DVD and Blu-ray. So on the DVD side, we've got these two discs, and we've got an interesting looking cover on the inside. And then here on the Blu-ray version, we've also got two discs. And this time all the characters in swimsuits. So there we go, two very fan servicey looking shows. And last but not least in this package was a Naruto Shippuden third movie, I believe, The Will of Fire. Which I guess I have to figure out how close I am to being ready to watch this. The truth of the matter, though, is at this point, the friend I'm watching Naruto Shippuden with is probably more interested in the TV series, which I have to agree I am as well, because the TV series is finally feels like it's not messing around with us so much. I imagine the insides aren't all that different. They usually aren't. That's very interesting. Kind of matches with Pokemon Black and White, which I've been playing a little bit of lately. And that'd be about it, except that I did also get this arrive. Galaxy Express 999 Eternal Fantasy. And I have to say, I am looking forward to the fact that the TV series of Galaxy Express is coming out. Even if there is some worry about the fact that it's coming from the company that gave us Bobo 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 Bo. Now, there's no dub for Galaxy Express TV, so I believe it's English subtitle only, but they didn't include English subtitles in Bobo 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 Bo, so yeah, I don't know what we'll get, but there we go. This is this week's addition to my collection. So, I guess I can't help but feel like I can't remember everything I might have watched this week. So, obviously I finished High School of the Dead with the brother I was watching it with last week. So, this is the third week watching High School of the Dead. And once again, there's a lot of stuff about it I appreciate. Pretty much sprinkled throughout the series as its approach to zombie apocalypse. So they've talked about that a lot. We'll just go ahead and end there and think of the other things to talk about. Let's see. For starters, I watched all of Idolmaster. first collection, which is the first 13 episodes. I have to say, my first thought was actually, is this done by the same people who did My Hime / My Otome? Because something felt very similar about the two, and I couldn't exactly place it. Maybe the same character design or the same animators, if not the same mangaka or creators or whatever. Watching it, I guess it wasn't too bad. It seemed like it kind of doesn't have as much of a clear idea how it wants to be entertaining at any point in time. So, in a way, it kind of reminds me of My Otome, which, like My Hime, there's kind of a similarity between them, but with My Hime, I think it almost means that some of the entertainment value was more that they just happened to hit on the right ideas. And with Idolmaster, I think they kind of started coming close, at least in this first half, and there's something missing. A lot of my thoughts have been that a lot of the ideas seem like things that have been touched on in Neon Genesis Evangelion. Things are bad for an anime when it's being compared to Neon Genesis Evangelion without the quantifier better than or something like that, because that pretty much means, or maybe that's actually a good thing because it's being compared to the big guns. There's some aspects of this that I kind of felt like maybe this series had some ideas from Evangelion, but maybe didn't quite understand how Evangelion pulled off what it did. Maybe. All I know is for some reason things feel a little out of place and I'm having trouble deciding why. It's not exactly bad per se, and I'm very interested in seeing where the main character goes, but some of these people I just want to kick them until they stop being bad people, essentially. They're very, very frustrating characters to watch. And I don't think Evangelion really did that. I think it tackled the concepts and made the main people, but didn't make them just so frustrating. I mean, let's face it, Asuka was a bitch, and she did some of the same things for the same reasons as these characters, but the difference is that these characters are actively trying to kill each other, almost. And the conflict, it was kind of hard to tell where I should be focusing on conflict that could be happening, because it kind of seemed like it wanted to do one thing and have something that was a very reasonable explanation for why these mechas were being used, but at the same time somehow say, oh, but eventually there's going to be conflict, and maybe it feels like there's just something important missing, and I think a lot of people probably caught on to that, and that's probably why it doesn't score so well. As for, I think I mentioned part of my interest in getting it is that I had previously only watched the first episode, and the first episode does the good attention catching, I would say. The reason, I was interested because I had seen that first episode and only that first episode before. In fact, I looked at my download folder and I had downloaded the second episode. I just had never watched it because that was around when my downloading died. But the other component of it is, like all the images I saw online, and I was actually quite surprised that it's staying pretty strongly to the mecha concept, because I almost got the impression there really was this very strong idol thing, like maybe a cover story or something. And maybe that's the case in other versions of Idolmaster. I guess this Idolmaster Cinderella Girls thing. Or there's another Idolmaster TV series, period, and I'm a bit lost. But yeah, pretty much I just watched the 13 episodes. This DVD does come with 5 shorts. It says shorts on the back, and I think it was 5 of them. I did not watch those because I kind of ran out of time. I kind of calculated that I would be able to go to bed by like 3:15 last night if I had just watched the episodes and not the shorts. And yeah, I did watch Resident Evil Damnation again, and the same sort of thing that I can't really talk about without spoiling the thing that I thought was really interesting. I did, however, see Phaelus's review on Team That Guy with the Glasses, or That Guy with the Glasses.com, whatever that site is called, can't remember. And I think that there are some of his criticisms that I definitely felt synchronized with my experience watching it, and some of his compliments as well. But again, he kind of spoils it in order to talk about that stuff, so it's kind of hard to talk about it. The other thing I know I watched is Detroit Metal City. It was actually pretty good. It rates high, and I think that rating is actually pretty good. I was kind of worried about how it would pull off its premise as it put it, which was that, well, basically the guy who plays Krauser the Second, or Krauser 2, I guess, he doesn't like death heavy metal, but he's the main singer in the band, the death heavy metal band, blah 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 blah. And overall, I guess it kind of reminds me of some aspects of South Park by kind of keeping you off your feet, and so you continue to laugh and be entertained both by how funny it is and how horrible it is at the same time. It's really hard to describe it exactly, partially because I could feel after having watched all of it that my mind was in a very strange state, and I had to stop myself from saying a bunch of words that were said a bunch in the anime, just because it's very earwormy, or meme-wormy, or something like that. It just kind of crawls into your head and kind of sits there for a while. Very confusing. Other than that, I guess the issue is that I spent all of Saturday hanging out with a friend. So I guess I did watch Unico and the Island of Magic, which is something that maybe I should review, because honestly, I'm not sure if I feel other people can see what it is I see in that without a proper explanation on my part. Now, I could probably try and explain some of that here, but I noticed that, like, Chris Beveridge, a person who I believe has a bigger collection than I do, is the only person I know that I've ever heard of. I mean, when I was in college, barely having any anime DVDs, I would go to animeondvd.com, which I didn't know was his personal collection at the time, and, you know, just look at all the neat things that I wished I could have now. Obviously, I haven't caught up. He's got over 6,000 purchases, and he's got more variants of stuff, I think. But all that aside, he also does reviews of a lot of the stuff he doesn't watch, and he gives grades and whatnot and describes it. And while I don't think his review of Unicorn on the Island of Magic was necessarily bad, I felt like he kind of missed a very important key part. And I'm sharing this with y'all. It's my experience, having watched this as a very little kid. I mean, I don't even remember when I saw it. In fact, it's up there with, oh, Tron. Yeah, I watched Tron while my baby brother was being born. Yeah, once a week, because we have that on the home videos. Me watching Tron. So Unico comes from very, very, very little kid. Parents recorded it off of HBO kind of little kid. Early 80s. And you get to watch it a whole lot, and there's definitely this nostalgic part where it's one of those shows that kind of created what I find entertaining in the things I watch, right? So as kind of one of the core entries, that means it stayed solidly stapled in place as a favorite, even present day. And I still find a lot of value with watching it, because honestly, watching it enough times as a little kid and growing up and understanding it better, I can see that it's actually kind of deeper and just well told than you might actually get from watching this. And the thing that Chris Beveridge lost is that Lord Karuku, the bad guy, is actually a very, very important part to understanding all the relationships going on. Basically, it's not just about Unico, who we would focus on because they're the titular character, right, and their immediate companion, Sherry. You know, the interaction between them is one thing that definitely goes on throughout the movie, but if you miss this third dynamic of the interaction between them and the bad guy, you kind of miss these very interesting things where I still think Lord Karuku is just a very fascinating villain. And that's because even though he's clearly doing a morally wrong thing, it's a shades of gray sort of thing because of the events that created him, which kind of, it gives him a convincing backstory where it's almost partially not his fault that he's the way he is, so much as the forces, the people that did it. So it'd be sort of like if you had a movie where the Earth was dying because of all the pollution, or people were dying because of all the pollution, and humanity's maybe not going to make it, you have some sympathy for the characters in that situation, but at the same time, you recognize the fact that they were kind of part of the creation of this mess that they're in the first place. And since the pollution doesn't really have its own morals or thoughts, actually, now that I mention it, this is actually very similar to Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind, which does give nature recovering from this stuff, this kind of moral and thoughts. But that aside, they kind of created the situation. You can recognize that when you've got these conflicting personalities, which is not something that could happen if it's just people trying to survive from the disaster they heaped upon themselves. So there is an extra dynamic there that's that with Lord Karuku, and honestly, this is probably the movie. This movie is probably the reason I also like Tenchi in Tokyo more than Tenchi Universe and Tenchi Muyo. I can accept the fact that in Tenchi in Tokyo, the backstory for the main characters is bullshit. There's no question about that. And if you were a fan of any particular relationship between Tenchi and any of his regular harem characters, then I can understand being a bit put off by Tenchi in Tokyo, because it kind of puts a lot of that to the side, unless, of course, you were a fan of Ryoko, and then maybe it's either a good thing or a bad thing. But I think that one is stressed a lot more highly in Tenchi in Tokyo. But it definitely also kind of shits on that by introducing a character that is a completely new character for Tenchi in Tokyo and seems to be taking up more attention. But Tenchi in Tokyo is interesting to me because the villain is kind of similar, where the Yugi's doing a very clearly bad thing, a morally wrong thing. But the things that conspired to put her in the situation to choose and do that, to be the kind of person she is, are kind of explored more in depth, and I think it makes her a very, very interesting villain. Well, of course, I didn't watch that. I watched Unico and the Island of Magic, but I don't know. A step-by-step would be more interesting. Some of the strange, bizarre things it covers would be interesting. And there's other things I'd like to mention, but it's kind of hard to because it spoils Unico and the Island of Magic, which basically means I should really do a review on it. Some sort of stereotypical review. Of course, I don't give myself the time to do that because if I'm not watching anime, which makes it really hard to focus on video recording or video editing or anything like that, then I'm trying to finish up a game. So I did finish up a game. I finished up Mega Man Legends 2. Finally got tired of grinding for Zenny, I guess is the name of money, and then trying to buy upgrades and whatever for whatever stuff I was going to do. I reached the point where I'm like, okay, this is the only weapon I'm going to care about. These are the only things, and I'm going to go to be Dark Mega Man just long enough to get the taser so I can construct the Crusher, and just so I have the Crusher in this save game, and then I'm going to spend 2 million Zenny to go back to good Mega Man and finish up my capsule stuff and finish the game. And I finished the game. So that means I can now fire up the Misadventures of Tron Bonne anytime now that I'm off of that project, and justify the fact that I paid $200 for a game that maybe I didn't need to be buying so soon, but thank God I've got it because now all that's complete. Yeah, I know, complicated stuff. It's been complicated because I've been juggling a couple of other games. I had a weird Left 4 Dead dream, so I had to reinstall that. Playing through Pokemon Black 2 and White 2, although I've been very dragging my feet on that, much more than Pokemon playing I'm used to. And then there's Minecraft stuff to do because The 1.4 update is going to come out in a couple days. Oh god, complicated stuff. So I've got a lot of stuff to think about, so I'll leave y'all there and see y'all next week.